So welcome everyone to the Creating a Digital and Social Media Strategy. This is being presented by the Chamber of Commerce in Squamish, and we just want to be able to welcome everyone. My name is Kat Stearns, and I am going to be your facilitator today. And so I'm really excited for this session. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I really want to make this as interactive as possible. This is also being recorded, so you will get a version of this once everything is finished as well. So I encourage you to stay focused, take as many notes, but if you miss something, you will definitely have the opportunity to get a copy of this once we are completed. So my goal today is to really help you to know how to create a digital and social media strategy. Now, this is easily something that we could be able to take a couple of days or even a week to really dive into it. So we're going to give you a really great overview that will hopefully give you a really good starting point and an outline that's going to be able to help you to be able to know where you can focus your time, what maybe you can put a little bit on the back burner, and help you to be able to be very effective in what you are creating. I do want this to be as interactive as possible. So throughout the session, I'm going to hopefully give you some opportunities to ask questions and to help us to be a little bit interactive as well. At any point in time though, if you have a question, I encourage you to use the chat option here in Zoom to be able to ask any questions, and I will stop throughout the session today to be able to answer your questions as well. So let's get started. So my name is Kat Stearns and I'm your facilitator. Just a quick little bit about myself. I have been in the digital and social media world for just about 17 years. I started off in the music and entertainment industry way back in the day when it was MySpace and Facebook was just getting started. And I have since then worked with corporate organizations like BC Hydro business for the last 7 years, where I've had the pleasure of working with Destination BC as one of their key facilitators. So I know there's some businesses that are on this call today or that have registered that I've worked with before through some of our other workshops. So I'm very excited to have you joining us again. On the side of that, I also run a small consulting company, but delivering workshops like this is probably my favorite thing to do because there's so many great conversations that happen. I find there's a lot of aha moments that take place, and I really try to make these sessions as practical as possible so that you're able to walk away with a couple of key steps that you can take that will really help your business. And that's my goal for today as well. Talk about today is first off, how to create a digital marketing strategy. So what does that look like? What does that mean? What are some of the key things that you need to be thinking about? From there, we're going to talk about creating a social media strategy, which always seems to be the fun part that businesses get really excited about. But I want us to really set a baseline and talk about digital overall before we jump into social media. Then one of the biggest struggles I find a lot of organizations really have is creating content. That once you've got this plan, how do you create content that's meaningful, that helps to align with your business goals? So we're going to talk about some opportunities for you to do with that. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about some key tools that are going to help you to maintain and manage your strategy. Because it's really great if we have this idea of what we're going to do, but sometimes what happens is that we have a great plan, but in addition to running your marketing, you also have to run your business. And so for some of you, you might have a marketing team. And for others of you, you're just a one-person show. So how are you able to manage and maintain a strategy that's effective while still running your business? So these tools are going to help you to be able to do that. My one ask for you today as we go through is that I want you to keep on a little bit of that business owner and that marketing hat, but I also want you to put on this hat of your customer. That at the end of the day, all of this content, all of the strategies that we're doing are really meant to help connect you with your customer and help to grow your business. And the best type of marketing that we can do is to sometimes not focus on how we see the business or what we think is important, but to think about what is the value of our customers. So I really encourage you to stop and to take a moment to think about that as well. As mentioned, please feel free to use the chat section here and ask any questions that you have as we go along, and I will do my best to answer them when I see them, or like I said, at the very end, we'll have an opportunity for Q&A as well. So let's dive in. So this quick little graphic, I feel, is very all telling for how so many of us look at a digital strategy. You're very busy in your day, so you might have a website to which you might have a blog section, and maybe you've got a press release or a quick update that you put together on your website, and you're like, hey, I need to get this on social media. So you go to your website, you grab the link, and you put it onto Facebook, or you go and put it onto Twitter, and you go, perfect. I did social media, I did digital marketing. For many of us, this is how we look at social and digital, is that we took something, we posted it online, now we've got a digital strategy. And this is not an ideal opportunity for us to really be effective with it. So I want us to start to think a little bit more strategic and planning on how we're going to create a social and digital strategy versus just taking something on our website and posting it on a social media platform and thinking that we're done with social. So the first question is, what is a digital strategy? Why is that important? So a digital strategy focuses on using technology to improve your business performance. And the key words in here is business performance. That the idea of using digital and social is to help improve your business. No different to how you would take out an ad in a newspaper, put up flyers around town, create business cards. They all have a business purpose. And your digital and social should also have a business purpose as well too. So often I hear of businesses that create a social media platform, like example TikTok, just because it's the popular place to be right now. But your business might not really benefit from having TikTok. You personally might enjoy it, but it might not be the best platform for you to be for your business. In some cases it might be, but it's really coming back to say, does this platform really help me grow my business effectively? So that's what we really want to think about when we're building a digital strategy, is how does this help improve our business? So when we first start off to think about why we're on social, we need to think about what is it we want to be able to achieve online. So this is our first opportunity to get a little bit interactive. I want you to take a couple of minutes and in the chat box, just type in, why do you want your business to be online? Are you here to be able to grow your business, grow awareness? Are you wanting to be able to use it as customer service? What is the reason why you have a website, why you're using social media, why you are using email? What are the reasons that you're doing? So I have a few people here saying that we're here to grow awareness of our products, to grow awareness. If anybody else wants to put any other comments in there as well too. Growing awareness is a very key element. Someone else says here, I feel like my audience will see that I'm active in my business as I'm posting information. Great. Test product launch. Awesome. Love it. So there's a lot of reasons why you would be using digital media, and that's a really key thing to understand. We have another person saying engagement. Awesome. So it's first off, stop and think, what is it that you're trying to do? Is it to be able to grow brand awareness? Are you a newer business and people don't know that you exist? Is it also because of what's been going on with COVID, your hours have changed, or maybe your business model has changed and people need to understand that you now have a pickup service or you've slightly shifted your business? Are you wanting to increase online sales and bookings? So are you wanting to focus on selling a particular type of product? Are you hoping that digital is actually going to drive your sales, or are you trying to get people to come into the door? Are you a business that maybe you want to create community where you're just wanting to have a really great conversation? This is really great, especially if you're a nonprofit where you really want to start to get people talking about a certain topic. Or are you someone that maybe you're using this for customer service where you want to be able to handle inquiries, you want to be able to give feedback directly to your customers, or a lot of other ways as well. So first off, we really want to understand why you're using digital to help with your business. And all of those answers that you've put into the chat are all great. And there can be a lot of other reasons. So we want to think about that as you're moving forward. The next thing you want to be thinking about is, who is your actual audience? Often when I talk to businesses about this, they say, everyone is my customer. And in some cases that may be true, but in a lot of cases it's not. So it's really important to stop and think about who are the different audiences that you have. What are their demographics? What are their interests and hobbies? What platforms do they use? And how do they like to consume content? And so that's what you really want to think about. If you are starting to attract everybody, they often say when you market to everyone, you market to no one. So if you can start to identify your types of audiences, maybe you have one group that you're really focused on families. You're focused on people that have really young children. Maybe you're focused on other people that are very outdoor enthusiasts that are, just in their early 20s. Or maybe you're focused on people that are almost ready to enter retirement. You may market to all of those types of categories as well, but really getting in to identify, okay, this group of an audience, they're going to use my business when these things happen in their life or when they have these types of interests versus this group over here. And I'll share a bit more examples of that moving forward. So you really want to think about who your audience is and doing as much as you can to get to know your audience. So what are some ways that you can get to know a little bit about your audience? Again, opportunity for interaction. Put into the chat, what are some ways that you can get to figure out who your audience is and what it is that they want to know about your business? So what are some tools that you can be able to use? Number one, so yes, perfect. Facebook Insights. Your analytics on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter are all fantastic. Facebook in particular, I find has one of the best analytic tools for any social media platform. So it can be so insightful for you to be able to learn a lot more. Google Analytics can be very helpful, and we'll talk a little bit about that moving forward as well too. Another great thing, just ask your customers. Do a quick survey, do a quick poll, ask a question, post online and start asking like, hey, what types of articles do you read? What are your interests? Doing polls, doing surveys. That can be some of the best things that you can be able to do. Also looking at your competitors. What types of things are they talking about and posting about? Who are their customers? The more that you can get to know your audience is going to help you to develop the type of content that's going to resonate with them. The comment on here I have is surveys. Surveys are fantastic. If you're finding, you know what, I send out a survey, not a lot of people respond, put a little bit of incentive in there and say, we're putting out this survey, they'll take you 5 minutes to answer these questions, and we're gonna select one lucky person that's going to win a $50 gift certificate or a free treatment or whatever it is that you're able to offer as a little bit of incentive to say, thank you very much for taking the 5 minutes to fill out our survey. So one of the key things as you start to get to understand your customer is knowing what we call their customer journey. So this is starting to understand what are the steps that a customer takes in order for them to make a purchase or to do business with your company. And why this is important is that so often companies, when we start to think about posting content or creating content, we're so focused on the sale and just trying to get people to purchase. Yet, in a lot of cases, that sales cycle and the decision for a customer to make the decision to buy from you might be a really long time, and there may be better opportunities for you to be able to create content that'll help them to make a decision. So how do I mean, and what's an example of this? So a first example that I'm going to give you is RDC Homes. So they are a builder in the Squamish area. And for myself, I worked with a number of different builders in the Fraser Valley here. And so when it comes to a builder and building a home, the life cycle in a customer's journey is not just something like they're quickly going to do a Google search, find a company, and just boom, instantly do business with you. A person building a home sometimes takes months, if not years, of a decision. There's the planning phase, there's possibly buying property, there's needing to save up to do it, there's getting plans drawn, and then there might be some research that's going to take place on deciding who they're going to build with and who they're not going to build with. So the customer journey life cycle of someone to build a home is going to be quite long. So instead of just saying, hey, book with us and build your homes with us, there's an opportunity here for you to say, okay, what if they're just starting to think about building a home? We can maybe start to talk about, here are the 5 things that you want to consider when buying property. Here's the 5 things you might want to consider when you're looking for a builder, or you're looking at plans, or for you to start to get ideas of building a home. There's a lot of different content that you can create that's value driven, that starts to build a relationship between you and your potential client before they're even ready to identify the builder. And the great thing with that is that if you're creating great content that speaks to that customer journey early on, you're starting to build a relationship. So when they kind of hit that point where they're saying, I'm ready to build, you've already built up all of this trust. And now they're willing to be able to buy with you because they've known you for so much longer through that entire process. Does that make sense? Another example too is having a retail store. So this is an example of how this might be a shorter life cycle. That it might be something that, hey, I have to go to a birthday party and I need to pick up something quickly. And so I'm gonna go and do a quick line of what's available to me. This might be a shorter life cycle of what I'm wanting to be able to make a purchase. So I might come across a website and really quickly and easily be able to purchase something. I don't need to go and compare to a bunch of other stores. So my life cycle here might be a lot smaller, but there's still a lot of value that can happen here as well. So it's thinking about not only as well when the purchase happens, but what can happen afterwards. Is there an opportunity for us to have customers talk about the great gifts or toys that they had through reviews or different types of content as well? So really the steps that they're going to take when they're purchasing from your business is a really key thing to be thinking about. So as we start to think about putting together your digital strategy, my question to you is, and you can put this in the chat, what do you think is the most important digital asset for your business and why? So when you think about everything that is available online, what is the most important digital asset for your business? I'll give you a couple of minutes to put something into the chat there quickly as well. So thinking about everything that you have. So Patricia says website, perfect. Why would you say your website, Patricia? And anybody else that wants to add? We have another answer for Instagram. Give another couple of seconds for anyone else that wants to leave a response. Facebook, social media, pictures, video, perfect. Okay, excellent. So the answer, your website. Your website is the most important digital asset you can have. Now, why is that? It is the only asset that you have full control over. If you decide that on the homepage of your website, you want to post a 1-hour video, you can post a 1-hour video. If you want to put photos, testimonials, content, however you want to lay it out, you have full control to do that. Google might not like it, people might not watch it, people might not interact with it, or they might, but you have full control over what you want your website to do. When we talk about social media like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, that is rented space. You are renting space on those platforms and you don't know what's going to happen in the next 5, 10 months or years. A perfect example is when I worked in the music industry, we put huge dollars into MySpace. And for those of you that are any younger, you might not know what MySpace is, but it was really this key platform that all of our artists, we put music, it was basically our Facebook. We put tons of dollars and time into these. And where is MySpace today? It is non-existent. Facebook has changed so much even in the last 2 years. It is largely what they call a pay-to-play platform, meaning that you really need to be able to put a little bit of money behind a lot of your posts to get really decent reach. Instagram, very limited to the type of content you can post. You have to be very strategic in the types of photos and the types of videos you'll be able to post to get great reach. So you're very constricted on the type of content that you're able to post, and they can change their whole entire decision on what they're wanting to do in a drop of a hat. So your website is the one platform that you can fully control. So that's one of the key assets that you want to make sure that you have and that you're maintaining and continuing to have. Some businesses I know have said, oh, we've got a really great Instagram account or a really strong Facebook page. I don't think we need a website. Even if it's just one page on a website, You're always going to want to have that, because if something happens and all of a sudden that platform goes away, you still want to have some source in some way that businesses or people can still get in touch with your business. So your website really serves as this hub where everything is going to drive back to. And in some cases, your business might not need a website to do a lot of the interactions you have, but for most businesses, this ends up being that hub. It's where you're going to send links back on Facebook or social media. It's where you might have people sign up for your email list. There's a lot of other opportunities, and your website really operates as that hub for it. So what are some key elements that you really want to think about for your website? So we're not going to dive a lot into this because we are going to be having another webinar in, I believe it's in November, that we're actually going to talk about creating an effective website. But I want to give you a little bit of an understanding here as to what you want to be thinking about. Number one, create for people first, Google second. That's the most important thing. Yes, SEO is important, ranking your website is important, all of those things are important, but Google will love you when people love your website. So you really want to make sure that you're creating your website for people first. They're spending lots of time in there, they're finding your content useful and helpful, and then going from there. It is important to make sure that it's properly structured so that you are using good SEO like titles and headers and all of those types of things. And again, we'll get more into detail on that in one of the future webinars. You also want to make sure that you're adding fresh content. So Google likes to ensure that when they're indexing websites, they're referring to the most updated and the freshest type of content. So if you're having a blog, you're adding new content, you're adding new products on a regular basis, that's always a really great thing. Use of images and video is also extremely important. We're very visual people and we have very short attention spans. So it's really important to make sure that in addition to the written text, we're also using images to be able to help that. And Google loves images and loves video. The next most important thing is making sure your website is focused on mobile. Today, more and more people are going onto mobile devices. Almost close to 50 to 70% of website traffic tends to be mobile focused. So it's really important to make sure that your website is set up to be mobile. And this is a really big thing. For most of us as business owners, we sit behind a desktop. We look at our website on a desktop, we operate on a desktop, and we don't always think about what that mobile experience is like. So that's one of the key things you really want to be thinking about. So I have a quick question here about how can you tell if your website is responsive? So I'm going to share a link with you here at the end that's going to actually give you a link with a test that you can go to test to see if your website is mobile responsive. The other thing that you can do quite simply is go onto your phone and type up your website and look at it on your phone. That's another really quick and easy way to do. There's also some more technical ways if you've got Google Chrome that you can actually do it where you can test different types of devices. But the simplest way is I can give you a quick link to Google that will allow Google to quickly test your website to see if it's mobile friendly. The next thing you want to think about is how fast your website loads. So again, we are so used to information being available at our fingertips that we don't have the patience to allow a website to load for any length of time. So can anyone guess, according to Google, what is the recommended speed that a website should load in? How many seconds or minutes? And again, you can enter it into the chat box here. 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Perfect, yes. 3 seconds, it's getting closer to about the 2.5 second range is the recommended speed that Google wants you to be able to have your website load. So let's have you take a couple of quick minutes here. I'm going to share a link in the chat and we're going to have you go in. So you can use this link here, which is a free tool from Google that will actually allow you to go in and test your website to see how quickly your website loads. And so it's a great opportunity for you to be able to test that and to see how quickly your site loads. And in addition to that, it's going to also give you some opportunities of ways that you can improve it. So if it's realizing that maybe you've got some extra large images, maybe there's some problems with your server, this will be a really quick tool for you to quickly diagnostic and see what are some of the improvements that you can be making. So if you take a quick moment to do this quick little test, I encourage you to put your answer back in there and just share with the group how quickly your website loads. And no judgment at all. This is strictly just a learning opportunity. We did have one, I did this workshop a couple of months ago, and we had one business that when they did this, it took their website 78 seconds to load. So any of you, if you are under the 78-second, you are doing much better than a lot of other businesses out there. So we've got 10 seconds, 5.2 seconds, 2.6, 6 seconds. So, you know, these are quite normal, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you are a user, you're on your phone, you're impatient, you click on a link from, say, a social media site to go to a website, if it's gonna take 10 seconds for something to load, we get impatient. And so if you're realizing that your website is over that 3-second mark, you might want to see if there's some opportunities for you to make some changes. One of the biggest changes that you can make, the two biggest things, is that if you've had somebody develop your website or you developed it on your own using a platform like Wix or Shopify or WordPress, where you've used themes that you've copied, what sometimes happens is there's a lot of extra code that doesn't get used, yet Google has to read through all of that unused code to load your website. So if you have a programmer or a web developing team, if you get them to minimize a lot of that code or remove the code that's not needed, that a lot of the times will speed up your site. The second biggest thing is the size of images that you're using. A lot of us, what happens is that we go and we find a great image, whether it's stock imagery, or if we've taken a photo on our phone, or we've hired a professional photographer, they send us those files and we upload them. And especially if you're hiring a professional photographer, a lot of the times if they're not sending you web versions, they're sending you these large files that are like 2, 3, 5, 15 megabits in size. And those are huge files. So if you can minimize those files to be around 500 KB, that instantly will help your site to load better as well. So it's really important that you do this test. I recommend doing it once a quarter just to check in to see what happens, because Google's always making updates. Little things happen with your website and your speed might fluctuate a little bit. Also, just a quick disclaimer, if you happen to be using other tools as well, if you use Google Analytics, or you use this Google site, or you use any other tools to test your website speed, each tool is going to give you a different speed. As well, different locations will give you different speeds. So that's totally okay. What you want to do is just find one tool that you like to use and use that consistently. Reason why they're all different is different tools measure different things and they have to go to different servers. But if you use one tool consistently and you start to see huge influxes, you'll know that there's something you need to fix, or you know you're doing something right. So don't worry about different tools giving you different responses. Just find one you like to use. Perfect. So hopefully you guys have found that helpful and a little bit insightful. So let's move a little bit on to content marketing and talking a little bit about some of the different ways that we are going to create content. So content marketing can really be a lot of different things. It can be talking about having content on your website, your blog, email, social media, a number of different places. So the one thing that I really want to encourage you to do after today is to do just a quick digital marketing audit of all of the different platforms that you have, is to look at everything that you have created and do a quick assessment. What are you doing really well? Where are there some weaknesses? How can you improve? Are there some quick wins? Are there some things where you realize like, hey, our contact page actually doesn't have our correct hours of operation anymore because of COVID. We've had to change and adjust our hours and how we're handling things. Or is there missed opportunities or things that you've realized like, hey, we actually don't have a way for somebody to call us, or we don't have a way for somebody to email us if they have questions. And what's not working anymore? One of the big ones that I see with this not working anymore is Twitter. A lot of businesses used to use Twitter a lot. Twitter was one of my favorite platforms, and it was so great for so many reasons. But over the last couple of years, they just haven't had the updates that a lot of the other platforms have had. So for a lot of businesses, they've stepped away from that Twitter strategy. And now what they do is they just repurpose content from their Instagram or their Facebook, or they use a tool like Sprout Social or Hootsuite to just automatically post. If that's what you're maybe doing with Twitter or with one of your other platforms, it just might not be working for you. What you might want to consider doing is maybe shutting down that platform and saying, you know what, we're not going to use this anymore. And just pinning a tweet to the top of your platform that says, hey, we no longer use Twitter on a regular basis. Please visit our website or connect with us on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or Houzz or wherever you are, so that people know where they connect with you. So I really encourage you to take half an hour at some point and just do a quick audit to say what's actually working and what's not working anymore, to help you to realize where you can be making some improvements. Then as you start to think about the types of content that you're creating, I want you to think about 4 different categories. So often we fall into this category that when I create content, it needs to be fresh content. And yes, that is a really great opportunity. But I also want you to think of these 3 other categories. Is there an opportunity for you to repurpose content? Have you created something that maybe did really well that now you can use it and you can repurpose it moving forward? I'll give you a quick example. So one of the companies that I actually do some work for is Artisan Custom Log Homes, which they are a log home builder. I wrote this article that was called, How Much Does a Log Home Cost? It's the #1 question that people tend to ask when they're talking to a builder. And so I wrote this article that addressed the question of how much a log home costs, talking about the key factors that might come into play when determining price. That page alone ranks higher and gets more clicks than the homepage of their website. It is their golden content. So what I decided to do was I decided to take that idea and I have repurposed that content a number of times. I've made a quick little video that talks about it, so that can go on YouTube. That goes also on our social media channels as just a quick little 1-minute video. I also created a downloadable PDF that took the key components of that and made a quick Excel table that allowed them to create their own little budget based on the key factors we talked about. And each of those pieces lead back to that main article and help to support it a little bit further. So I really was able just to take parts from my blog and repurpose it into other pieces of content. So is there something that you have as well? Maybe there's a blog article that you've written, or maybe there's a really great social media post that is done really, really well. Can you repurpose it in some way, shape, or form to give it a little bit more life? The other thing to look at doing is curating content. Now, for some of you, there may be a huge opportunity for you to actually take content that other people have created and be able to repurpose that, or content about your industry. A really good tool to help you to do that is Google Alerts. So this is, again, a free tool that Google has that you can be able to set up alerts that anytime somebody posts about any type of word or phrase. So maybe it's going to be anytime that somebody talks about things to do in Squamish, or maybe if you're in the real estate industry, you're going to put, BC real estate, or you're just going to set the real estate term in anything that's related to Canada. Anytime that content online gets posted about those topics, Google can send you an email that says like, hey, this may be of interest for you. I definitely recommend that each of you set up a Google alert for your company name and your business name, and in some cases for your own personal name, because then if somebody ever does an article about you, you'll get notifications on that. There's also a great opportunity for you to collaborate. There's a huge opportunity right now, especially with different businesses trying to figure out their new normal, to collaborate. So maybe there's a way where you can put together a piece of content. As an example, if we're trying to promote local tourism, maybe it's trying to say like, hey, encouraging locals to come and experience new things in the area, or realize some local gems that maybe not all the locals are aware of. So maybe you can collaborate with 2 or other partners and help them to maybe plan an itinerary to say, hey, as a local, here's your perfect day in Squamish of what you're going to do. So there's some really great opportunities for you to, instead of always creating fresh new content, to look at these other categories when trying to come up with content as well. So let's move a little bit into probably the most exciting part for a lot of us, is talking about social media. So again, what I really want to be able to emphasize here is that social media is an ingredient. It's not the only game that you want to focus on with your digital. Your website is a really key element. For some of you, it may be also having that email marketing list. It might be focusing on having a really great blog. There's a lot of other things you might have, but social media is an ingredient that helps with your overall strategy. So what is social media? It's this online community where people are able to gather around common interests and be able to start to have conversations around it. So just like different communities and organizations have different conversations that take place, it's the same type of idea here, that people are going to engage with your content on these different types of channels. So similarly to when we talked about why you want to have a digital platform and a digital strategy and why you want to be online, you want to also ask yourself, why do you want to be on social media? And I really encourage you to think about this for each individual channel that you have. That why are you going to be on LinkedIn? Why are you going to be on TripAdvisor? Why are you on House? And why are you on Instagram? Really start to ask yourself, what is it I'm trying to achieve? Because it's a popular platform to be on. That's not necessarily the right answer, and you might not get the most amount out of that platform, and we'll talk about how you might want to address that differently moving forward. So when we talk about being able to create your different social media accounts, we're going to talk about selecting the right type of accounts for you. So I just had a question here, is do you count YouTube as a social media platform? Yes, YouTube is an example of a social media platform, but how you might use that as well as we move forward. So there's a lot of different platforms out here. So as you can see, YouTube is one of those. TripAdvisor, Google My Business, Snapchat, TikTok, Tumblr, Twitter, all of these are all different types of social media platforms. None of them are better or worse. They all are very effective when they are done properly, correctly, and in alignment with your business. However, so often we get caught up in this idea of, oh my gosh, there's this great new platform. I have to be online because it's the hot new trend and it's the best thing to do. Depending on your type of business, that may be great. But again, for a lot of us, we do not have the capacity to manage all of these platforms very effectively. So we're going to talk about how you might want to look at that a little bit different. To start, one of the biggest things when we talk about marketing and branding is consistency. So it's really beneficial that if you have your company name on your website, you want to try and have those same usernames on Facebook, on Instagram, on any platform that you are going to have set up. It's not a bad thing if you plan to be really active in the social media space for you to be able to have at least secured your platforms on your username on different platforms. So NameCheck is a free tool that you can use in GoTo, where you can type in your username and quickly and easily see where it is available on all of the different platforms, URLs, basically everywhere online that it is available. So it's a one-stop shop that's really simple and easy for you to be able to use, instead of signing up for an Instagram account and getting one username and then logging into Twitter and realizing that your username isn't available there and you have to change it. So this is a really great way for you to try and plan as best you can to try and get a consistent username across all of your platforms. So I really encourage you to use this tool if you're wanting to set up or change your usernames and doing it through this type of a platform. So when you're talking about social media, it's really important to think about every single individual platform as its own conversation. The best way for you to be successful on social is to use the platform as intended. So the way you talk on Instagram is very different than the way that you're going to talk on Twitter. And again, is very different than the way you're going to post something on YouTube. And the communities are very different. I personally love Twitter. I use it for a lot of different tools. I'm not as active on it as I used to be, but one of my biggest frustrations is that if I do follow someone on Twitter and all of a sudden they post something and it's this link to see more, read more, and I have to click and I have to go to their Facebook page or Pinterest account or a different platform. I like being on Twitter for what Twitter has to offer, and I tend to unfollow people that don't actually use the platform properly, and a lot of Twitter users do the same thing. And the same applies on Instagram, Pinterest, and a lot of these other tools. So what you really want to do is you want to learn and know and understand how these platforms are used and really start to focus on that more specifically. The other big thing to understand is that most platforms have an algorithm. What that means is that when you post something on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, everybody that follows you doesn't always see your content. There's different components that come into play to determine who sees your content and when. Now, there's hundreds of different points that start to determine an algorithm, but to really simplify it, there's these 3 key things that come into play with each of the different platforms. So I'm going to walk through these to help you understand a little bit about how you can start to think about getting people to engage with your content. So the first thing that looks at is affinity. So it's how often do people engage with your content? So for example, if you have a Facebook page and anytime that you post, you have that one fan that they are always liking, they're always commenting. When you host an event, they are the first ones to register and say they're going to be there. When you have a new product, they're so excited and they can't wait to get it. They're just that one person that's always loving your content. And I'm sure each of you can think of those 1 or 2 people that you're like, they always like my content. So when they have a really strong affinity, that really helps. The second thing is weight. So this actually has 2 sides to it. First is what type of content are you posting? So different types of platform give weight to different types of content. So again, I'll use Facebook as an example because it's the one that we're probably most common with and has the most different types of content. So if you were to think about, there's videos, there's live videos, there's posting links, there's posting images, and there's posting just plain text content. Which of those types of content do you think is the best type of content that Facebook likes right now? So of all of that type of content, what is the best? So I've got videos. Anyone else wants to post a guess? Videos. Perfect. So you're partly right. Live video is the best type of content right now. Next to live video is video in general. Video when it is posted directly on the platform. If you post a video on YouTube and you take that YouTube link and you post it on Facebook, Facebook doesn't consider that a video, it considers it a link. And so it's actually going to get less reach than if you were to take that video and you were to post it directly on Facebook. So original organic content on the actual platform, if you can do your live video, that's even better. Then the second side of that is how are people engaging with your content? So there's the weight side of, okay, now you've posted something, how are people replying? So again, if we think about it, we've got sharing, we've got commenting, we've got emotions, we've got people just clicking a link. Of all of those ways that you can engage, what do you think is the highest weight across all of the different types of platforms for the type of engagement? What do you think is the most powerful? Again, I'll give you a minute just to type into the questions there. So we've got likes, shares, commenting. Perfect. So sharing used to be the #1 type of content metric that they used as far as weight. Now it's comments. Comments is the #1 thing, ideally when a comment is 3 words or more. The reason being is that in this last year, Facebook has really wanted to pull back, Facebook and Instagram, to really be a conversational hub to build community. So they're really focusing on having meaningful conversations taking place. So when somebody posts a comment on a piece of content you posted, your goal as the business is to go back on there and to reply back to those comments as well, and encouraging people to leave comments, because that's one of the strongest types of engagement that you can show the algorithm that's happening. And that works across all different platforms. The next thing is what we call time decay. So this is the lifespan of a post, of how long your post is going to be successful. So can anyone guess how long your post will live on a feed? So if you were to think about Facebook or Instagram, how long is that lifespan of your post where it's got the most optimal opportunity for reach? 12 hours, 1 day, 15 minutes, perfect. So 48 hours is the average lifespan of a post, with the first 3 hours determining its overall success. So what does that mean? It means that if you are extremely busy and it's 10 o'clock at night and it's the first time that you have finally sat down to post something on Instagram, if your audience is not awake and not engaging, it typically is not going to be as successful had you maybe sat down and posted it early in the morning to give it a good lifespan to have people engage with it. So you really want to think about timing your content and being able to focus on that. I also saw a comment about what should we avoid on Facebook? What will the algorithm punish and not share? Great question. So one thing you want to avoid is what they call link bait content. That's meaning that you post a piece of content that says one thing when you see it on Facebook, but you click through and it's something completely different. It's like the bait and switch, saying, hey, if you click on here, you're gonna read this like really great article, and then you get to the back end and you realize it's an ad or it's something completely different. You want to avoid that type of content as much as possible. That's the biggest thing you want to be able to avoid when you're posting content. So you want to be really truthful with that. The biggest time that that comes into play is that if you're sharing articles from like news sources or other types of outlets that are producing this like mass content that they're just trying to get clicks. That's the type of content you want to try to avoid. Most of us won't post that on our business pages, but if you are a page that you tend to share a lot of that kind of trending content, you want to be careful on making sure the articles that you're sharing are actually going to be legit with it. So that's the most important thing. Great questions. So now that we've talked a little bit about understanding how there's a ton of different types of platforms out there and there's an algorithm, we really want to focus in on how are we going to make sure we're going to take advantage of these algorithms with all of our platforms. So what I would like to encourage you to start thinking about is what I like to call primary and secondary accounts. So primary accounts, these are going to be the platforms, the channels, the tactics that are most effective for your business. So earlier on, we talked about your business goals and we talked about your target audience. So if your goal is that you really want to be able to create awareness and you want people to really know that your business exists, and you have your audience that they're really active on Facebook and Instagram, perfect. Make those your primary platforms. That is where you are going to spend time every single day to create content, to post, to really know how the platform works, to know when they come up with a new type of tool or functionality, to understand how the ads work, etc. Vice versa. Say if you're more of like a building company and you find that, you know what, your audiences are in this idea of research and they want to know as much as they can about real estate and they want to know what's going on in the market trends. Maybe you're going to actually focus more on having LinkedIn and blogging being your two main platforms that you're going to focus on. And so you're going to write a monthly article on your blog that's very detailed, that's very focused on answering questions that your customers have, and then sharing and becoming a really well-known professional in LinkedIn. So I really recommend for, in most cases, that you have only two primary accounts. For most of us, when we're running a business and trying to handle our marketing, that's about as much as we can take on. If you have a marketing team, you may be able to take on more of that. Or if you're extremely business, you may need to only choose one major platform. But you have your core primary platforms that you focus on, that you spend the majority of your time. Then you have what we call your secondary platform. that you might need to have set up because you run a business and they just need to be there. Perfect example of that is going to be your Google My Business listing. Any of you that have a business, whether it's out of your home or you have a physical office space, you should have a Google My Business listing set up. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you are in luck, because as part of the series that we're doing with the Squamish Chamber, we're going to be doing a Google My October that's going to walk you through what it is, how to set it up, and how to optimize it. I love the Google My Business listing. They've made so many changes and it's such a powerful tool, especially for local SEO and for local business. So it's such a key thing and it's something that you want to have. But once you've set it up and created it, you don't need to be in there every single day. You might need to check it once a week for reviews and update maybe some key dates and hours, but really it can kind of live on its own. Similarly, for a lot of us, LinkedIn may not be a platform that you need to be in every single day depending on your audience, but it is one of the most authoritative platforms up there. Google ranks LinkedIn as one of the top 3 most authoritative platforms on the web. So one of the key things that you as a business professional may want is to have a really good, strong LinkedIn profile. So maybe you take a day, you create a really great profile, you add all of the details that are on there, but then you really don't need to update it or change it too much moving forward. So it's really important to sit down and do that. Similarly with YouTube. YouTube, for a lot of people, unless you're a YouTuber, you're creating regular content, a lot of businesses tend to use YouTube as a platform to just host videos to be able to embed onto their website. And that's totally fine if that's your strategy with YouTube. It can be a primary platform for a lot of accounts, but it may be secondary. As well, for a lot of businesses that are maybe in real estate, design, building, etc., House may be one of your primary, or it may be a secondary platform depending how interactive you are. So these secondary platforms are ones that either A, you're maybe setting up really well once and then leaving and just checking in periodically, or these may also be platforms that you go, you know what, this may be something effective for my business. I don't know exactly how it plays into my plan yet. So I'm gonna go and create it and I'm gonna test it a little bit here and there, but you're not gonna take time away from those primary accounts to go onto your secondary. So does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions when we talk about primary and secondary? I see a question here. Should you share on LinkedIn in the same way you would on Instagram or Facebook? Great question. So the short answer is it depends. LinkedIn has become more of a social platform in a sense that now you are seeing people posting more updates and contents, but it's going to depend on your business. So for example, say you are a local shop and you've got like local products. You might not want to use LinkedIn as a way to promote your products of what you are currently selling or talking about your products the same way you would on Instagram, but you may want to talk about the business and the professional side on LinkedIn. So you may want to talk about the fact that you're going to do a post on LinkedIn to thank the community for supporting you during COVID. You may want to talk about the fact that you've just won a business award, the fact that you're hiring. So it might be more of the business messaging versus the product messaging. Versus if you're, say, a realtor, or you're in development, or you're in a more of a professional idea like that, you may want to share articles that maybe link back to a blog that you've written. LinkedIn's got a really great long form content opportunity that you can use, or you may want to be just posting more professional updates of what you're doing from training, professional insights, stats, things of that nature. So it's going to depend on the type of business that you have. But again, you want to understand the type of audience that is on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn still tends to be much more professional than it is going to be on Instagram. But that's just a general rule. You may find that, you know what, when you do post about your products and services on LinkedIn, even if you are a boutique, people love it. So you can test it a little bit and the algorithms and people will tell you whether or not they like it or not. So the question I have here is, for something like YouTube, how often should you be posting videos on there to make it worthwhile if it's a secondary account? Okay, great question. So in this case, if it is a secondary account, It depends, are you using those videos to repurpose them onto your website or to share them onto, say, Twitter? Or are you using it to say, you know what, I want to see if YouTube is a platform that I can actually eventually turn into a primary account? So maybe just clarify, if you're wanting to see if it'll grow into a primary, that might be a bit different of a strategy. Most people, when they're looking at YouTube as a primary account, they tend to have a consistent publishing date. So that may be weekly, it may be bi-weekly, it will at least be once a month. So it might be, say, the first Monday of every single month, you can expect a new video to drop. Or it may be every Tuesday of every week, a new video is going to drop. So if you're wanting to see if you can move it from a secondary to a primary, consistency is going to be key with YouTube. People on YouTube really like to consume YouTube content, and they really look for that constant update. So that's going to be a really key thing. If you're using it just as a secondary platform, you're not worried about subscribers or watch times or things like that on YouTube, then you use it at an ad hoc basis. So you're going to just post it whenever you need to have a video to place it somewhere else. So maybe that helps to answer. So just to clarify more information. So if you don't have a YouTube currently, but wondering if it's something worthwhile. So again, it's how you're going to possibly use that channel moving forward. So if you're using YouTube as a way to be able to just filter content to, again, your website, then it's just going to be ad hoc. But if you're in an industry that you know it's actually a really good opportunity from an SEO perspective for you to rank, for people to find information, or it has potential to be a really useful channel, then posting consistently at least once a month, setting a constant date. A lot of people you might see this as on their YouTube channels, it'll say video drops every Tuesday or first Monday of every month. You want to be consistent with that. So being able to test that a little bit, hopefully that helps answer. If you have any more questions with that at the end, I can answer that in a bit more detail too, but great question. So to help you get a little bit of an idea, and this may help you as well, is how and when you might use some of these channels. So again, there's no answer that says this is the best channel for you to go with. It's really going to depend on your business, the type of content, and who your audience is. But I'll walk through some kind of examples as to how and when you might want to use different platforms. So if you are not on social media at all and you're just wanting to get started, Facebook tends to be the easiest one for people to get started with. The reason being is that it supports the most variety of content. You can post an hour-long video, you can post a ton of photos, you can post links and articles, you can post a variety of a lot of different things. So it's a really great overall platform for you to get started with. It's also very inexpensive if you do decide to do any type of advertising by doing boosted posts or doing custom ads. It's a really key platform for you to get involved with that. It also has probably one of the best opportunities for you to do community engagement. So getting people to share, comment, getting new people to find your Facebook page is probably one of the easiest as well too. Facebook just recently launched the ability for hashtags to be useful and helpful as well. So people used to add hashtags on Facebook in the past. They didn't actually do a lot. And so just recently, about 2 months ago, Facebook updated their platform to make hashtags now searchable, similar to Instagram, still not as good, but it's helped with the ability for you to get found a lot easier. In general, your audience is kind of that age 30 plus. So you do have a nice range of different types of audiences that you can be able to interact with. So it is a really good kind of starter platform if you really want to get going with it. Instagram is also a really nice, good platform for you to start and to be able to grow with. It is a bit restricting, meaning that it's very visual. So anything that you post needs to have an image or a video to go along with it. And again, there are some restrictions on the types of video, how long your videos can be, and things of that nature. But if you're a very creative type or you have access to a lot of content, then that's really great as well. There's, again, a really good opportunity for strong engagement opportunities there. There is limited advertising capabilities. It's a bit more expensive, but there's still some good opportunities there. If you happen to be a business that you've got an online shopping platform, so you've got something like a Shopify, this can be a really great tool for you to easily get people to see your product, be able to click on a product that they see and actually go directly to your page to be able to purchase it. So it can be really great for being able to link out that way. If you're someone though that writes a lot of content like blogs, it can be a little bit restricting to get people to link out of Instagram to get to your website. There is tools and things that you can use, but it just becomes a little bit harder for you to do. The audience, again, typically it's women between the ages of 20 to 50, but you do also see a larger male audience as well too. So one of the questions I have here is, should hashtags be in the main post or in the comments? People seem to have different opinions on this for Instagram. So great question. The answer is it actually doesn't matter. So Instagram will read the hashtags in your post or in your first comments posted underneath. The max number of hashtags is 30 in total of your entire post. So that doesn't mean putting 30 in your caption and 30 in your comment section. You will not be able to do that. My recommendation is that if you are someone that you sometimes write really short captions, like maybe 1 or 2 lines, and then underneath that, you're someone that likes to put 30 hashtags, I would put your hashtags in the comment section. Just the reason being is visually, when you open up a post and you see it, and you see a short caption and then a huge list of hashtags, it looks a little bit spammy and it's a little bit detracting to read. So I would always recommend to do it that way. If you happen to be someone though that you're very strategic with the hashtags that you're using, and maybe you're only using like 5 or 10, then a nice thing that I like to do is have your caption and then do some spaces or some dots, or there's a lot of creative ways to create some distance, and then have your hashtags underneath. Regardless, it's nice to separate your hashtags from the actual caption, so it makes it easy and scannable for people to be able to easily read your content with that. So that's my recommendation with hashtags on it, but we'll index you for both the hashtags on your post, in the captions, and your comment section. So great question. Next one here is Twitter. So again, it's a bit more of this dying platform. It's really strong for business to business though. So if you're someone that you're in the tourism industry, especially, a lot of businesses, Destination BC, a lot of CDMOs, a lot of different types of organizations in tourism, in business overall, use Twitter for that. It's also a really key tool for customer service. Myself, I use it for it all the time. If I'm ever needing to get a hold of TELUS or Bell or an airline or Hootsuite or you name it, I go to Twitter. I do not like waiting on hold for things. I'll go to Twitter, and all of those platforms have really great integration of authenticating who the user is and confirming your account details to be able to respond to them directly on Twitter. So I don't have to wait on hold for half an hour. I can just go to Twitter, and within 5 minutes, I can be in contact with someone and resolving any situation that I have. So I love it from a customer service standpoint and from a B2B. Twitter, unfortunately, has not done what a lot of other platforms have done by updating their content, making it more visual, and really adjusting to the times. So you're limited on the number of characters, some of the visual elements that you have, and some other things there. But if you can use Twitter from a B2B or a listening tool, it can be very powerful. Again, if you're a business that you have Twitter and you've stopped using it, my recommendation as just one of your action items, go onto your Twitter account, post a tweet. You can go pin to top, just like you do pin a article to the top of Facebook, and just say, you know, at this point in time, we're not currently using Twitter on an ongoing basis. If you'd like to connect with us, please visit. And then you can say your website or the other social platforms you want people to go to, so that they know if they start to message you on Twitter and they're not getting a response, they're not going to get frustrated with that. Because people that use Twitter will typically go to Twitter as that customer service standpoint. So if you're not monitoring it, post something like that so people know to visit you somewhere else. The other couple of platforms that, again, you might want to be focusing on, depending on the type of business that you're in, is Google My Business and TripAdvisor. So I mentioned Google My Business already a little bit before. Again, for anybody that's on this call here, your Google My Business is a really key platform that you want to have. It's integrated into Google Search, into Google Maps, into so many of the other Google tools. It is great for SEO. It's great for local audiences. It's great ways to be discovered. And there's a lot of things that people don't realize that Google My Business offers. So it's such a powerful tool and not many people take advantage of it. TripAdvisor, the same thing, is that if you tend to be a business that's largely focused around tourism, TripAdvisor is a really great tool to help you to get discovered, get found. TripAdvisor has a really strong SEO presence. So if people are looking for things to do in Squamish, in Howe Sound, in Whistler, you have a huge opportunity to show up on some of those lists and get some of that free exposure. So if you're into looking at that from more of a tourism opportunity, I highly recommend signing up for both of these types of platforms. They're both free and they're really great. Again, these can be secondary platforms. You take a couple of hours, set them up so that they're really professional, they look great, and then you really don't need to do much with them except for monitor them for comments, reviews, and just making sure all of your information is constantly up to date. So LinkedIn, and I mentioned this a little bit beforehand, again, I really encourage each of you as a business professional to create your own personal LinkedIn profile. A lot of times people tend to think of LinkedIn as that platform that you only need to go to if you're looking for a job. And it's not like that anymore. It's really started to take on a life of its own. And so this is a really key platform. It's one of the most authoritative websites. So if somebody, again, is looking for a professional, or again, even looking for a business, sometimes LinkedIn will show up right underneath your main website, or it'll be one of those top pages that are going to show up on the first page of Google. So it's a really key platform to get on top of. As well, there's a lot of changes that are happening with it. Microsoft recently purchased it a couple of years ago and has been making constant updates and changes on it. So I think this is only going to continue to grow and expand. And I think also because it's a very different platform, you're not seeing a lot of the content that you might see on a Facebook of just unuseful content. So I think this is a key platform that a lot of us can really still take advantage of. So those are the couple of the key platforms that I wanted to talk about. If there's a platform that I didn't dive into that you do want to know a bit more about, feel free to put it into the chat. And at the end of the Q&A, we can talk a little bit more about how you might want to be using that platform and some advantages or some things to think about as well. But regardless of the platforms that you are thinking about, again, this is where this customer hat really comes into play, is you want to think about how your message is being consumed. So when you think about posting, regardless on the platform that you're on, your posts are showing up in between messages from friends and family. So when you're posting something about your product sales and what's going on, above that post might be somebody that's announcing that they're expecting, someone that's getting married, and below it might be pictures of a close friend of theirs that's just come back from a vacation. And so your content is showing up in between these personal feeds. And for a lot of us, again, we work behind a desktop. We end up always sitting here and thinking about how all of our posts come out together and how our feed is looking individually. And we forget that our content is being mixed in with personal messages. So that's a really key thing to be thinking about, is just how your content is showing up that way. So you want to be thinking about making sure your content doesn't always feel like an ad when you're posting in there, and trying to organically fit in with however the messaging is working. So in order to help us be able to do that, we want to think about posting with purpose. So from here on in, I am now giving you permission that you no longer have to feel like you need to post every single day or multiple times a day just to check a box to say, I posted something on social media. From here moving forward, I am encouraging you to now start to think about posting with purpose. That anytime you put something onto a social platform, that there is thought, purpose, and it's something that you yourself would want to consume on a feed as well. So how does that look? What I like to think about is what I call the 4 E's of engaging content. So these are just some ideas to help you think about what type of content you can be posting about. So creating content that is educational, so informative, tutorials, how-to, interesting facts, did you knows, things that are going to make people start to learn and understand more about your product. So instead of just saying, hey, we've got, you know, a ton of this type of stock, purchase it, or hey, hire me as a realtor, or come here and do this. Those posts are sometimes good, but there's also an opportunity where you can be able to share some interesting facts that helps to educate people as to why what you do, what your products or what your services are important. The next one is engaging. So again, when we talked about the powers of the algorithm, engagement is such a key thing. So is there a way that you can engage your audience? Sometimes it's just simply asking them a question to say, what do they think? Can you get them to maybe tag you? Create user-generated content, participate in a giveaway. What are some of the things that you can be doing? Next is empowerment. This is sometimes a really great one that we often forget about. It's one thing when you talk about how great your business and your products and your services are, but it means everything else when somebody else does. So is there a way that you can maybe take some of those reviews that you have on Google that have been maybe posted on your social media or on TripAdvisor and repurpose them to share what other people are saying about your business or services? Is there a way that you can start to collaborate and get guest people to talk about that? So are there some ways that you can share stories, testimonials, or other people's experiences of interacting with your business that you can share online? And then lastly, sometimes we just need to take a step back and make our content entertaining. When we think about why people sometimes go onto Instagram or Facebook, it's to sometimes just to get away from their day. So is there a way that you can create lighter, more engaging content that can be a little bit entertaining as well? And we're going to go through some examples of what this looks like. So when it comes to creating type of content, those categories might be great, but I know I still have people that go, I still don't know what to talk about. So this is what I find to be the golden answer for content creation. So this gentleman here, his name is Marcus Sheridan, and he's been a huge mentor of mine for the last 5 years. And he created this huge, it was just this whole new revolutionary idea about 6 or 7 years ago when he wrote a book called They Ask, You Answer. And the idea is that for so many of us, we live and breathe our businesses every single day. Yet when our customers interact with us, sometimes it's the very first time that they've interacted with our type of business, and they're going to ask us questions. And every single question that you ever get asked in your business, no matter how big and how small, is an opportunity for you to create content. That is the key thing to do. So from here on in, anytime that somebody asks you a question, create content around that. Maybe it's a simple social media post, maybe it's going to be a blog article, whatever it is. But the idea is that if one person is asking you a question about your business, chances are other people have that exact same question. And the key thing with this is to not judge any question that you get asked. So for myself, I have been doing these workshops and webinars for over 10 years. Every single time I do a session on Facebook and how to use Facebook, and I show people how they can post and schedule content directly in Facebook, there is always one person that goes, I had no idea that I could post in Facebook. It has been around for a very long time, yet there's always one person that is still surprised to know that. To me, I think that that is a question that has been answered for so long. I've been talking about it for so many years, and I sometimes forget that not everybody knows it. To me, it's common sense, but to other people, it's not. And so for each of you in your businesses as well, there's a lot of things that you probably think are common knowledge and that probably are really frustrating for you sometimes to go, I keep getting asked these same questions. That's perfect opportunity for you to create content. So any question that you get asked, create content for. One of the exercises that I often get businesses to do is to simply just take 5 or 10 minutes and write down every single question that you have ever been asked, as simple or as detailed as it can be. So one of the questions that I've been asked here is, should businesses have an auto chat box pop up on their Facebook? So great question. I'll answer that just in a couple of minutes here then. So take some time and just write down every single question that you've ever been asked. And that's going to give you a great opportunity for you to be able to do that. So to answer Jennifer's question here about setting up a chat, it can be very helpful. It can sometimes be very resourceful for you to be able to have, if you've got some of those, again, common questions that people are always asking you. Are you open? Do you deliver? All of those types of basic questions. A chat box can be really helpful and useful for that. There's also a lot of other tools out there that will help you with that. So if you're someone that, again, you're a one-person show, you don't have time to always be on Facebook, but you have a lot of people messaging you, it's perfect for you to be able to do that. There's a couple of businesses that we've set up that auto reply so people know, hey, if you're wanting to book an appointment, that you can't actually book it through social media, that you need them to call the office to be able to do that. Or if they're wanting to know questions about certain products or services, we provide the links to where some of those places are. So those chats can be very helpful and useful, yes, but I don't think it helps to just answer or to have it be useful with answering some of these common questions. It's more about if someone's asking you, I'll give you again the example of a log home builder that I work with, is that the number one question they always get asked, or used to always get asked through their forms online, was people just say, how much are your log homes? Like, they wouldn't give any more detail than that, but they always got bombarded with, the only question was, how much is a log home? And it was such a complex response that we decided, you know what, rather than the owner having to write this long detailed email every single time, going back with a bunch of questions, we said, let's write an article that addresses the question. And so that's what I'm encouraging you to think about, is what are some of those common questions that you're getting asked all of the time, and can you write some content for that? So hopefully that helps to give a little bit of context with it. So one of the things that you can then do is, by looking at the questions that you're getting asked, thinking about those 3 E's of creating engaging, entertaining, educational type of content, is what I like to say is creating these content buckets or categories that help you to plan out your content. One of the most frustrating things that can sometimes happen is that when you're sitting down ready to plan out your content for the coming week or month, and you have no idea what to post. But if you can create these little categories or buckets, it can help you to start to be able to plan things out. So there's no magic number to the number of buckets you want to have. You can have as many or as little. I recommend ideally having at least 3 to 5 buckets so that you've got a nice variety of content. And then you can be able to just plan that out and help you to map your content, and it gives you a bit of direction. Examples of what some content buckets might be. So one bucket might be that you're going to create content that is educational, that's some fun, interesting facts about your business. So you might say, okay, one of our buckets is going to be, we're going to create content that answers some of the common questions, gives them a little bit of an understanding about who our industry is. So this is an example of a post that was done for a place out in Revelstoke, where they've got this really great, I want to say zip line, but this ride that comes down the side of the mountain. And so what they decided to do is they wanted to give people an idea of what this experience was like. So they had somebody go and do the ride and just put on a GoPro and just GoPro'd the entire ride going down this hill. And then they've posted that video and shared it with people to let them understand and see what it's like to actually go on this ride down the hill. That's a really fun, it's entertaining, and it really gives people a sense of what this is actually like. So that's an example of what you can be doing. You can also just do quick little videos of you answering common questions that people have, maybe talking about a new product that you're doing, or maybe giving some insight as to what's going on in your industry or what's going on with your business right now. Another bucket that can be a really fun one that people like to play off of is talking about national days of. So if you were to go and do a quick Google search, you would find that there is tons of national days of. There is pretty much a national day of for absolutely everything. Now, you don't need to get carried away with this, but this is a good opportunity for you to maybe find some key national days of that align with your business. So there might be things like National Tourism Day. In this case here with this post from Tourism Squamish, is that there's a National Indigenous Peoples Day of Canada. It may be that there's a national beer drinking day, national wine day, national chocolate day, national different national days of. And if you can find one or two in a month that really properly align with your business, they can be really fun trends to play off of as well and help you to create really unique original content. Another one is your brand story. So again, for some of us, if we've been on social media for a long period of time and we're constantly growing, it might be a great idea for maybe once a year to take a step back and maybe tell a little bit about your story, how your business got started, where your company name came from. One of the things that I love to do with businesses is actually have a meet the team series. So one of the first things we do when we work with a lot of businesses is we'll say every single Monday, we're going to profile one of your staff and we're going to do a meet the team. So it's a very fun, interactive piece of content where it's not the professional board, something that's more interactive and how they would actually meet and greet and interact with that person in the business, and then some personal story about that individual. So who they are, how long they've been there, what they like about working with the business, and if they'd like to, a couple of personal notes, maybe what they like to do, if they have any pets or family they want to talk about. And what this allows us to do is that, especially right now in a virtual world, people might not have the opportunity to interact with people face to face. They might be over the phone, over social media, or just over the website. It gives them the opportunity to say like, oh, I now know who that person is. So if you're someone that people are booking online and shopping and you're sending out their products, maybe it'd be really fun to say, hey, here's the person that is taking your orders, boxing them up, and making sure they get shipped to you with love. That's a really fun and interactive way to humanize your story of your business and help people to really get to know who you are. Because as people get to know the people behind the business, it can really help to build that relationship. We talked about this a little bit before. Going live is such a key opportunity here. So again, this can be a really good opportunity for you to be able to interact, to really build that engagement with it. So what you might decide to do is maybe you're going to go live once a month. Maybe you're really comfortable, you're going to go live once a week. And you can do a lot of different fun things. I've seen businesses that have done it where they're going to go live and they're going to talk about a new product, a new monthly promotion they're going to be doing. I've seen it where they happen to partner with another local business and they talk a little bit about what that business is doing and what their business is doing. There's a lot of fun things that you can be able to do. And as we talked about before, that going live on your social platforms gives you the greatest amount of reach. You've probably noticed this as well, that when you're on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, if somebody's going live, you see that little alert that says that this person has now gone live. So it gives you a lot more exposure as well. Testimonials and user-generated content, like we talked about too, this is a really fun and interactive way to be able to do this. One of the more advanced strategies that I've seen some businesses doing are what they call story takeovers. So that's where you might find someone that has a similar type of audience as you, and you're going to say like, hey, you know what, all of the stories on our Instagram or our Facebook, you're going to take over for the next day or the next week. And it's a really fun collaboration. So there's some really fun ways that you can get it interactive and start to do some testimonial and user-generated content. And then lastly here is talking about product knowledge. So again, just very common, but being able to just help remind people about what your products are, how they might be helpful, how they might be useful, highlighting promotions, and just giving them some good understanding about what your products are as well. So as you start to put together your different categories, you start to put together the key questions people are asking you, identify what are the themes you're going to be posting about. It's nice to be able to map it out into a content calendar. So as you can see here, this is an example of a content calendar that I put together for one of the clients that we worked with. Of just like, this is what we're going to be able to do. So we map it out in a month. So we kind of know roughly where our content is being posted. In this case here, they have a dedicated marketing team. So we were very aggressive in when and how we were posting. And you might not be posting this frequently depending on it, but you might also have a very aggressive platform as well too. So one of the good things that you'll get by attending this session here live is that I will be sending a link to one of these content calendars that I've mapped out as a template for you to be able to use moving forward. So it can help you to map out your content, give you a really good strategy and a good plan so you know roughly when you're posting. And I find it really helpful to do it on a monthly basis and just kind of putting little notes, because often what happens is we forget that there's Thanksgiving or Remembrance Day or holidays, because we get so focused in just a rhythm of trying to post that when we have it in a monthly view, we get reminded of all of these other holidays that are taking place. So this link will get shared with all of you that have participated in this live webinar as well. So good job for being here. So we're coming up to the last half hour. So I'm gonna go a little bit maybe quicker through some of these common questions so that we do have some good time for Q&A. But hopefully this will answer some of the common questions that we get asked, and then I'll go into some of the tools that are available. So first question I always get asked is, how often should I post content? So again, it is going to depend on the type of platform that you're on. Twitter allows a lot more content to be posted in a day versus maybe Instagram, etc. It's less constraining about how often do you post, but making sure your content is really purposeful. I have seen people that will only post one blog a month, but it is such a great blog and it gets a ton of traction. I've seen people that will only post on Facebook or Instagram twice a week, but when they do, it is such great content. And then there's other people that will post multiple. The key thing is making sure it's really great content. Move away from the idea that I need to post X amount of times a day or a week, and say, how often can I be creating really great content? If the answer is once a week, start with once a week, but make sure every time you post, it's really great content. You will have more success with your content if you really take the time to focus on posting great content than just saying, oh, I haven't posted in 2 days, I need to just throw something up there. So really focus on posting with purpose. What is the best time to post content? So again, it's going to depend on the type of platform that you have. I recommend looking at your analytics of your platforms to be able to determine it. However, if you're not sure, you're just getting started, or maybe you kind of haven't had a consistent theme, largely I find that posting early in the morning between 7 and 9 a.m. across platforms tends to be the best time. People are commuting to work, the kids are just getting up, they're just getting up. It's kind of a really good downtime, and it allows your post to then have the first start of the morning to get some good traction as well. Alternatively, posting also around noon or again towards the end of the day. So you can kind of see that the down times when people are online is the best times to post. However, if you're a business professional and you're someone that you might have people wanting to actually interact with your content during the business day, you might actually want to be posting during the day like that. So sometimes I find Twitter or LinkedIn posting around that 10 or 11 a.m. in the morning might be more effective. So it will depend on the platform, but using your analytics will help you to understand that a bit more. The best type of content, we talked about that as well too. So again, video is always a really key tool for you there. If you can go live, that's great. If you're posting videos, trying to make your videos under a minute is always a really great tool as well. And then one of the other common questions that I get asked is, how do I grow my social media accounts? So number one, posting great content. Number two, engaging with other people's content. When you engage and you leave comments on other people's content, they're going to start to want to reciprocate that and engage with you as well. So that's a really key thing to be able to do. So this last section here, and then I see there's a couple of other comments that I'll definitely get into, but I want to make sure we get through these slides as well too. So how are you going to maintain and manage your strategy? So we've talked a lot about different things that you want to be able to focus on. The big thing is now stepping back and saying, how are we going to manage it? Do I have a budget to run ads? Do I have a budget to get creative and having someone design content or write content for me or manage my social media platforms? And so really answering these questions honestly. If you have a small budget, great. If you don't, that's okay too. But you just need to be able to set and maintain it. That if you have this idea that you run a full-time business, you plan to be on 3 platforms as a primary account, you don't have a budget and you don't have someone to help you, it might be a lot of work for you to manage it moving forward. So maybe you want to pull it back. Vice versa, if you have a dedicated team that's going to help you with your marketing, maybe you can be a little bit more aggressive with it. So here are a couple of tools that can hopefully help you to be able to manage and maintain your content moving forward. So number one, definitely building a team. Platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, these are really great online tools where you can hire professional people that have excellent skills anywhere in the world. So they can be very inexpensive and they can really turn out some really great work. So these are really great tools that if you're looking to get some really great design work done, having some images created, having any website work done, these can be really great tools. Also, I sometimes find reaching out to your local community college or university is also another great tool. A lot of them have design programs in which they need to actually go out into the world and they have to get some real life experience as part of their curriculum. And so I've known a number of businesses that have actually gotten some fantastic work from young designers that has been absolutely phenomenal. So those are some great opportunities with that. Using your analytics. So this is again a really big thing to be able to really help you understand how exactly your posts are performing, what type of content people are engaging with. So often it's the content we least expect that people go crazy over versus the content that we think is going to do really well. So reviewing your analytics and understanding what actually performs is really, really helpful. Google Analytics and Google Search Console are also two really great tools I strongly suggest that you set up. They're both free, and again, they give you a lot more insight with that. I'll dive more into what these tools are and how to use them in the website session that we're going to be doing in November. So again, I encourage you to sign up for that too so we can get a little bit more into detail with that. A great tool too, if you are wanting to take more of your design in-house, is Canva. This is a free tool that you can use that they've got a really great template to help you create images for stories, for every single social media platform, for emails, for newsletters, you name it. It's such free and a paid version with this, and it can really help you take your images and your designs up another level. There's a lot of other tools out there, but I find Canva does a really good job of staying up to date and has some really great tools with that. Scheduling tools. This is definitely another one that's really key to help and make sure. Again, if you're a one-person show, you really want to try and make sure that you're timing your content appropriately and you're not finding yourself at 10 o'clock at night needing to post something. So Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Planoly, there's a ton of other ones out there. Some are free, some are paid, and some have a combination depending if you're wanting to do certain things or not. But getting a scheduling tool can work really well. Facebook does have its own scheduling tool in there as well too. You also can have Instagram if you're using some of the design features in Facebook to be able to do it, but it's very limited. So a scheduling tool can be a lot more robust in depending what you're wanting to be able to do. A couple of other editing tools as well too, if you're wanting to take pictures with your phone, is Visco. So this again is a mobile imaging editing software. If you're someone that's really focused on Instagram, this is a really great tool to help you to get a consistent look and feel with all of your images. It's what a lot of those brands out there that have that really nice consistent feel. If they're using, there's also Lightroom for mobile that you can get that is free as well, or Visco is another option that can really help you to get that consistent look. Tools for video too, I love Animoto. Adobe Spark is free as well, or if you've got a Mac iMovie, all of these are really good. What I love about Animoto and Adobe Spark is it allows you to put the text underneath so that people can play their video with sound off and they can still be able to see what's being said in the video. So that's a really great tool. And these are both great tools if you're not wanting to be in front of the camera. So if you're someone that you're a little bit camera shy, these are great tools to help you to be able to still create video without having to be in front of the camera. And then lastly here is Linktree. So this is again a really great tool that if you're someone that you're using Instagram a lot and you're wanting to be able to have people go from your Instagram account to your website or to landing pages or things of that nature, you can use Linktree, which allows you to create multiple links so that when somebody clicks that link in your bio on Instagram, they can link out and link to the multiple pages that you have available there too. So it's another really great tool to be able to help you that way. And sorry, this is probably one of my favorite, my biggest life-saving tool out there is called LastPass, a free tool. It saves all of your passwords and login details in a secure and safe format where you can have them saved on your desktop, on multiple computers, and also on your phone. So if you're needing to log into different types of accounts and you can't remember what your passwords are, this has been just a lifesaver for me. So I use this every single day to try and log into all of the different accounts and platforms that I'm using too. So this one is probably my biggest time saver of all that I have as well. So at this point, we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. I'd like to open it up for questions. I know that there's a couple in the chat box as well, but I encourage you to ask any questions that you have at this point in time, and I will answer them as best I can. And if anybody feels like they've gotten a lot of value out of this and they want to jump off, again, I want to thank you very much for participating. And I really hope that you've got a lot out of this, and I hope that you'll join us for a couple of the upcoming webinars as well. But now I'll move over into the chat section here and answer some of the questions that have come up. And if I miss your question because it's further up, I do apologize. So first we'll answer the question, who would be the audience for Pinterest and Houzz? And are they used much anymore? Great question. So Pinterest is definitely still a huge platform. Again, it's very specific. So one of the biggest things that I think was really frustrating for a lot of people on Pinterest is that you'd find a really great image, whether it was a recipe, an outfit, or a to-do, and the image would not lead anywhere. And that would frustrate a lot of people. So the key thing with Pinterest is that if you're using Pinterest as a tool, you really want to make sure that all of your pins lead to a source document. So that might be on your website where you actually have the recipe, the product, more details, something. If you're using Pinterest just to pin images, people tend to get a little bit more frustrated with that. Typically, Pinterest is still used largely by a more dominant female audience, especially kind of in the do-it-yourself type of field or style, fashion, things of that nature. So it still has a very large following. It also has a little bit of a following too when it comes to design and development. So a lot of people still use it as a platform to go to if they're thinking about building a house, doing redesigns. I know home edit on Netflix has been really popular, so you're seeing a lot of that start to pop up now as well too, as far as like organizational skills as well too on Pinterest. So it definitely still has a place, but again, you want to make sure if you're using that platform, you're using it properly. You're not just pinning photos. It's got to be able to link to somewhere else. Houzz still is very, very big, especially in the development space as well. One of the biggest struggles though that Houzz does have is the fact that it's definitely moving more to a very much of a paid platform where you're paying to try and get targeted to your audiences. There's still some advantages that you can use by creating your photo galleries and getting your referrals and your testimonials through Houzz as well. So it definitely has a place with it. But a lot of businesses get the most out of it when you're actually paying for targeting a certain territory. But if you're looking to connect, I find it works really great from a B2B standpoint, where you're trying to help, if you're somebody that you're wanting other developers or other builders to know that you exist, that's a really great tool for you to have as well. So hopefully that answers your question with that. One of the other questions that we have here is, it's often really efficient to cross-post content, but is it effective, or is it better to vary your content on each platform? So we have a new blog. Should it be scheduled to go out on all of our website, social media platforms the same, or is it better to spread it out? So great question, Jackie. So when we talk about posting your content on all of your different platforms, it is completely fine to have the same message go out everywhere. You just might need to craft it differently. So for example, what I see a lot of is somebody will post something on Instagram and they'll tag a bunch of people and they'll do it so it automatically shares to their Facebook page. However, the tags on your Instagram account or their Instagram account are going to be different than the tags on Facebook, so the business will never get tagged on Facebook. So what you want to think about is you want to think about taking that piece of content and you want to write it so it's written specifically for Instagram. So in the case of a blog, you're going to want to be able to give a little highlight of the blog. If you're tagging anybody in it, you properly tag them, and you're going to say link in bio. However, on Facebook, you're going to write that out. Again, you're going to have slightly different tags, and you're not going to say link in bio. You're going to have your link probably being auto-generated down below. So it's going to be posted very differently. Similarly, if you were to do it on LinkedIn, again, you're probably going to have slightly different tags, and your link is probably going to auto-generate. On Twitter, again, you're different again, where you're going to have limited amount of characters, different tags, and you might actually need to go in and you might need to create a custom carousel within Twitter so that you're actually going to have a proper link show up versus just being the auto-generator link that's going to show up in Twitter that way. So you can take the same type of content, you're just going to want to position it slightly different, and you may also need to time it differently. You might find that on LinkedIn and Twitter, you're going to be busier maybe during the workday or a little bit later in the afternoon, versus on Facebook, you might want to post that first thing in the morning or again later on in the evening. So you can still share your blog across all of them, but you want to specifically write it for each platform. That's how you're going to be strategic with it. Because again, when we think about when someone's on Facebook and they're seeing those tags that are meant for Instagram, it's not really going to do any sort of benefit, and people can't actually click on those. So hopefully that helps to answer your question a little bit. Not sure if anybody else has any more questions to be able to go through there. So yeah, one of the questions I have here, we are running a big sales promotion for October and November. Our plan is to post it every week on every single social media platform with slightly different messaging. Is that too frequent? Great answer, Jackie. Question, Jackie. Your audience will tell you if it's too much. If you post it on week 1 and you get a huge amount of traction, and then week 2, you might slowly see it start to decrease, that might be telling you you might be really starting to saturate your audience, and instead you might want to take that first initial post and maybe run some advertising behind that. The other things that you can do is if you're changing your messaging, so depending on what your promotion is, you might just want to reword it. Maybe you're using, if it's a promotion, you might want to be using a testimonial of someone that's taken advantage of your promotion. You might want to do a countdown. You might want to add like a little bit of like an incentive behind it. So if you mix it up a little bit, it can be helpful. But if you're just saying, hey, we've got a promotion on ABC, special price of X, you know, take advantage between now and November 30th, and you're just repeating that every single time, you might start to run out of ideas. So try and mix it up a little bit with maybe some information, some incentives, some different ways of positioning it. And if you still start to see that decreasing, I would strongly suggest maybe taking one of your successful posts that you've had and starting to run that through a promotion and starting to kind of reach audiences that aren't already seeing that content. So hopefully that helps. Another question I have in here is for Instagram, what is the best practice or etiquette for sharing and tagging? And if someone tags us, do we want that wants us to share? If we tag people, is it annoying? This is what I always get too. Yes, we will make an email to link to the session. Okay, so this is always a big one. If you are tagging a business in your post, you need to have, the post needs to be of relevance to that business. Some people will tag businesses in their posts in a way to try and get them to notice them and a way of trying to get them to follow them. That is not an effective strategy. What you instead want to be thinking about doing is if you are talking about, so for example, say you are somewhere in Squamish, you are out for dinner at a local restaurant and you want to tag that business because you've enjoyed the meal, that's great. Or if you wanted to give a shout out to someone, that's great as well. But if you, for example, are running a promotion and it has nothing to do with a bunch of businesses you've tagged, proper etiquette on social media, regardless of the platform. In the case of the Squamish Chamber, you may get tagged because you are a chamber and somebody might want to tag you to say like, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z and we think you should know about it. They may do that. So what you may want to do is if you are a business that you are finding that you're getting tagged a lot in content and you don't want to be, maybe it's time for you to create a hashtag round. If you want us to know about something that's going on, rather than tagging our account, we want you to use this hashtag with it. That might be a better option. The rules for sharing, again, this becomes part of your strategy. Some people say that, you know what, we'll share anything that anybody posts for us. Other people will say, you know what, we're not going to share anything that we get tagged in because we want our feed to look a certain way. It is completely up to you on how you want to handle that. It is still nice though if you can reply back to people to say thank you for the tag, but it's really up to you to be able to do that. So hopefully that helps with that a little bit. One of the other questions here, so when posting content on LinkedIn, should you do it under your personal profile or company page or both? So again, great question. Typically, so it really is going to, again, depend on the type of platforms you have. Typically, your personal profiles will perform better than anything you have on your business. That includes for LinkedIn as well as includes for Facebook. Facebook has a rule that you are not allowed to use your personal profile for promotional opportunities. Now, all of us will share things about our business. That is fine. What it's saying is that you cannot use your personal Facebook page to run your business. So again, as an example, if you are a realtor, you cannot use Facebook personal profile to post all your listings, all your open houses, and really use it as your main platform to promote. You need a business page for that. People have gotten shut down for doing that. A lot of us have probably know friends or family that they are doing the direct sales. A lot of people have gotten shut down because of that direct sales model, and the same thing happens on any other types of business. LinkedIn is seen as a professional profile, so you can post on your personal account as much as you want about your business. Typically, your personal account on LinkedIn will get greater reach than your business profile. However, if you are wanting to start to shift your account from being on your personal LinkedIn to having more things on your business page, you're going to want to start to increase the frequency there. If you only have 2 people that currently are following your business page, you may want to focus more on your personal LinkedIn account, start to increase that, and hopefully drive people back to your business page. But as a rule of thumb, you're going to have more exposure on your LinkedIn account. So I don't know if that kind of helps you. You can post in both. They might have 2 separate different audiences, but it really, if you're wanting to get away from that personal LinkedIn and get it to the business, so you can have other staff, other teams, other people starting to post on that as well, that's going to be the best place for you to be able to do that. Any quick tips for creating your best live video? Yes, number 1, do a test. Biggest thing you can do. So a couple of rules of thumb for creating live video. Number 1 is if you can, plug in your phone to a charger. It will eat up your battery life super quickly. So if you plan to be on anything longer than 15 minutes, have your phone plugged in. Number 2, make sure you're turning off any alerts. So you put it on the airplane mode so that you're not going to get interrupted. If somebody happens to call you in the middle of a live, it will turn off your live and it'll automatically go to have you accept the phone call. So you won't be able to actually deny it and continue on with your live. So you want to make sure you're doing that. The 2 biggest things you want to think about when doing live is how do you start your live and how do you end your live. I see so many people that do a great job of delivering a fantastic live, and then they get to the end and they don't really know how to end it properly, and they kind of fumble and they just go, okay, we're just going to end it. Really think about how you want to end it. So something even just as simple as, thank you everybody for joining us on our live. This has been a ton of fun. We're hoping to do another one of these in the future. If you have any more questions, contact us here. However you want to end it. Have a really strong opening, have a really strong ending are the 2 biggest things. Also, when you're holding your phone, don't hold it horizontal, hold it vertically so that you're going to get the best setup with that. You can do lives on your desktop when it comes to Facebook, but you can only do Instagram on your phone. And so really just making sure you're doing a test and making sure you know how everything works. Even if you just take 5 seconds and quickly are like, hey guys, I'm just doing a test because I'm going to do a live in the future, that's okay. The other thing is tease it and promote it ahead of time. So if you're wanting to have people join you on your live, remind them 24 or 48 hours beforehand that, hey, we're going live on this date. An hour before, remind people again, so you can try and get as many people on your live as best as possible. Hopefully those are quick little great tips. Okay, so if there's any other questions, I will stay on for a couple more minutes to answer them. If not, again, thank you so much to everybody. Really hope that you all enjoyed the session today. You found it helpful and useful. And I really hope that those of you that joined us today will join us again for Google My Business, and also for helping to create an effective website. That one's going to be, I think, a lot of fun as well. So thank you all again very much, and we will hopefully see you soon. And thank you very much for all the great feedback as well. Really appreciate it. Okay, if there's no more questions, we will end the session. So again, thank you so much.